I don't have anything. 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 I just don't have anything. I don't have anything. You don't have anything. You just don't have anything. Don't have anything. So I don't have anything.
And if you are an individual, a foreign national who illegally enters the United States of America, you are by definition a criminal. And so therefore you are subject to deportation.
And we finally, after 4 years of chaos and mayhem and apologizing for America, have a president again in the Oval Office who is standing up for America. And this is what it looks like when you have a leader of our great nation who uses the leverage of the United States, who understands that since our nation's founding, we have been viewed as that shining light on the hill. We have been viewed, rightfully so, as the best, proudest country in the world.
Step into the new era of politics, where common sense is driving the nation forward. For the past 4 years, the press secretary was nothing more than a DEI appointment. But within just weeks, the new Trump press secretary, Karoline Leavitt, has completely dismantled Karine Jean-Pierre in front of the press. In this video, we've compiled the moments where Karoline Leavitt shut down Karine Jean-Pierre during their live White House press briefings, starting from their very first interaction. Pay attention to how much emphasis was placed on celebrating the first Black woman, the first immigrant, and the first openly gay woman to serve as the White House press secretary, and how Leavitt's approach contrasts with the previous administration's focus.
Good afternoon, everybody. Hello. I know that was a long 2 minutes. I apologize. Okay, let's get started. So before we start the briefing, I want to take a moment to recognize the lives lost and forever changed in Buffalo. Former Buffalo Police Lieutenant Aaron Salter, 55, is a hero, a security guard who engaged the suspect to save lives and was killed in the process. Ruth Whitfield, 86, was mother of Buffalo's retired fire commissioner, Garnell W. Whitfield. Ruth was the rock of the family.
Apologies, but this is just pure nonsense and a blatant example of a real DEI hire. One thing I have to ask is, does she honestly believe that saying all of this would make her look good in her debut as press secretary? If she does, then what she should have kicked things off with is something like this.
Good afternoon, everybody. How are we? Good to see all of you. It's an honor to be here with all of you. A lot of familiar faces in the room, a lot of new faces. And President Trump is back, and the golden age of America has most definitely begun. The Senate has already confirmed 5 of President Trump's exceptional cabinet nominees: Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, CIA Director John Ratcliffe, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. It is imperative that the Senate continues to confirm the remainder of the president's well-qualified nominees as quickly as possible. As you have seen during the past week, President Trump is hard at work fulfilling the promises that he made to the American people on the campaign trail. Since taking the oath of office, President Trump has taken more than 300 executive actions, secured nearly $1 trillion in U.S. investments.
That's exactly what we need. Common sense. If you really pay attention, you'll notice a clear difference in how she confidently talks about what we all want to hear. To me, she's not just speaking, she's making promises she genuinely believes in.
Delivering on the promises he made to the American people, and who speaks the truth. So I'm so humbled by the outpouring of support I've heard from people across the country saying, we're doing such a great job at the White House. Well, it's easy to do a good job when you are acting on common sense and you're speaking the truth. And that's exactly what President Trump is doing every single day.
Exactly. When you work with someone who has common sense, this is the outcome. But that's not what we're seeing with Karine Jean-Pierre. Just take a look at how Jean-Pierre tries to explain the lack of communication between the press and the former president.
The White House released a 6-page summary back in February. I don't think that was a full accounting necessarily. And Dr. O'Connor in that memo described the president as, quote, a healthy, active, robust 81-year-old male who remains fit to successfully execute the duties of the presidency I think that is clearly not what the majority of Americans are seeing. And we have a new poll from CBS News that says 72% of registered voters say the president does not have the mental and cognitive health to serve as president. So are you saying that the majority of Americans are misguided and that they just need to trust Dr. O'Connor and take him at his word?
So a couple of things, and I want to say the president is feeling better, and you saw him last night, you saw him today, but he does indeed still have a cold. Look, I want to be very sensitive here, and I think it is important to be sensitive here. We understand how the...
Yeah, you can't say anything because there's nothing you really understand. And as we all know, for them, everything comes down to emotion, gender, and race. That's exactly what we saw here. Instead of answering the question, she deflected with an emotional response. Now, watch as a reporter asked her to get Biden to answer their questions, because it's obvious she has no real clue what she's talking about.
I appreciate the request. Thank you for the request. The president, as you know, again, I appreciate the question and I get it. And the president understands. You guys want to ask him questions and have the opportunity for him to answer your questions. I do want to say, this is a president that has done more in the first 2.5 years, when it comes to the economy, when it comes to really giving the American people a little bit of breathing room than any other president.
Did you catch how she instantly shifted the conversation? Honestly, she reminded me of Kamala Harris. Not only did she completely dodge the question, but she didn't even try to redirect it. She just skipped right over it and started talking about the economy. And once again, when the same question came up, she got visibly arrogant. Just take a look at her face.
The president invited his son Hunter to the state dinner last night. I'm wondering if you could take us into the thinking and the decision-making of why the president decided to.
I'm just not going to get into family discussion, personal family discussion. As you know, Hunter is his son. I'm just not going to get into it.
If Hunter Biden wasn't the president's son, would he have invited someone who had just reached a plea agreement with federal prosecutors?
Well, a couple of things. Again, that's his son. He's a family member. It is not uncommon for family members to attend events at the White House. You could look at past presidents. I'm sure you have. So that is not uncommon. As it relates to anything related to Hunter, I'm just not going to respond to it from here.
My goodness. Was there no qualification necessary to be press secretary? This person isn't anywhere near qualified if there's ever been a standard.
So the question, not an unreasonable question to ask whether the President of the United States was involved, as this message seems to suggest, in some sort of coercive conversation for business dealing by his son. Is that something, if he wasn't, then maybe you should tell us.
So here's the thing, and I appreciate the question. I believe my colleague at the White House Counsel has answered this question already, has dealt with this, has made it very clear. I just don't have anything to share outside of what my colleagues have shared, and so I would refer you to him and the DOJ. Just not going to comment from here.
But this isn't the first time she's dodged a question. Once again, she deflected when a Fox News reporter asked her a simple question. What's truly laughable is that she wasn't even close to being prepared to answer, yet she lied right to our faces. And that's a wrap. It's clear that when it comes to leadership and accountability, there's a noticeable difference in approach. Karoline Leavitt's straightforwardness and common sense are a stark contrast to the evasiveness we've seen from others. The question now is, will things change, or are we stuck in this cycle? Only time will tell. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more updates.